What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be interesting, a little bit different, and I'm going to try to explain it and break it down to you as easy as possible. This technique is going to be used when you really want to keep that fade low. You really want to keep it at a certain level, and this is just something that I kind of use here and there when that's the case, and that's what I want to do. So I'm going to take it to the board, I'm going to explain it, and let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to begin this here with the number 2, and I'm just going to start removing that bulk, and that's really all I'm doing. I'm just trying to get rid of all that bulk, because if I'm going to try to make a line in there, I'm not going to be able to see what I'm doing, and I got to be able to see what I'm doing when I'm making that line. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to make that number 2. A lot of you guys have asked me if I would just post like a simple cut, like a number 2 on the back and sides with maybe some scissors on top and just roll with it. But the truth is, if you know how to take it from the number 2 to the clipper over comb, that's actually going to be what you're going to use to handle that. So you're not really going to need to see that from me, but I will actually do a cut like that soon. So we're going to begin by putting in my skin line. Of course, I'm keeping it low. I'm dropping it down in the back, and I want to jump from one side and jump straight over to the other side, and I'll just kind of get in front of them and I'll make sure that it's even, and if it's not, I'll make sure that I level it out. But I will not try to make it go all the way around from one side to the other. It's a waste of time, because you're probably going to be off anyways, and then you're going to have more than one place to try to fix it, and that's just not going to work out for you. So after I got the back all situated, everything is all good. I removed all that bulk, of course, using a detachable clipper with a 5-0. If you don't have a 5-0, a trimmer will do. However, a trimmer will take on a lot of abuse during this technique. I also will go back through with the trimmer in places where it makes sense, where it's difficult to get behind the ears, and any little spots that you struggled with that big blade, go back in there with that little blade and get that detail work out so that it's all ready to go ahead and move on to the next step. So we're going to begin by using a little bit of clipper over comb here towards the parietal ridge. And again, if you guys are struggling with the clipper over comb situation, head over to my clipper over comb video. I really feel like it could help, but for now we're just going to begin rolling the comb out towards me and removing that bulk and just moving with it. And little by little, you're going to step back, see how it looks, see what effect that's having, and then go back in and you're going to be set. So here we are, just finishing off the back, rounding off the back of the parietal ridge, and I'm just trying to situate that area between the two and everything else that I've done, so that now when I begin working, I can begin working lower, and I can keep that fade down low, and I know that everything above that is pretty well addressed. And of course, I'm going to go back in there and fine tune it with some scissors over comb and some texturizing shear over comb. Hey, can one of you guys grab my 50? All right, so we're coming in with the electric shaver, and I've told you guys this plenty of times, but if this is my 5-0 line, I want to stop just below with that electric shaver. I'm using the Braun Series 9. Of course, it's the smoothest, fastest, and best, in my opinion, electric shaver that you can get. Thank you, buddy. And we're just going to stay just below that line with it, and we're going to begin flipping it away, reducing tension, possibly coming down with the grain, and making sure that when we're done, we have skin to 5-0 with no line of demarcation here. If there is a line, go back to your trimmers. If you need to flip it upside down, flip it upside down. Do what you got to do. If you need to return back to the skin machine, return back to the skin machine and get rid of it with your electric shaver. So what we basically need to see before we move on, and that's really part of my main advice to you guys, is just being thorough, because I feel like a lot of people are on step 5 when they're not even done with step 2. So yeah, be thorough, and there won't be so much cleanup work. Now, what I'm going to do here is I needed to double check my skin line. The number 2 was still a little bit too long, just to make sure that everything was perfect. So I actually took the number 1 1/2 right underneath it. So if all this area here is a 2, a 1 1/2 moving into a 2 is not going to create any line. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to wipe away some of this bulk from this main line before I begin doing this actual blend. Now, I told you guys that this one is different. This is a different technique that I use in certain situations. So I'm actually going to begin, I'm going to attack the skin line with a number 1. So right now we are down to a 1.5 here, and I have a 1 open. Now bringing a 1 open into a 1.5 is not going to create a line. It's not going to create any issues. You're actually going to have a pretty smooth blend. And little by little, you're going to see this line is starting to dissipate. But we're going to start doing the exact same thing I always do. With my number 1 on, the clipper was in the open position. And little by little, I'm crisscrossing and I'm keeping it flat and I'm clicking it down and I'm bringing it down. So each time I come back through, I just want to get all it's worth. You'll start to see this line dissipate and you're going to start to see that you're starting to make it happen and it's starting to look nice and clean. So as we're done with the number 1, once we're done with that, we're going to put on the half. We're going to attack this line now with the half. So basically what happened was we went 1.5, we went 1 open, and then we went 1 closed. A 1 closed with a half open coming into it. So we're taking a 0.5 open and we're coming into a 1 closed. That's not going to create a line. That's not going to create any issues. However, that is going to begin to soften our 5-0 line. It's going to begin to soften our 5-0 line really effectively, and it's really going to start to show how nice and smooth that blend is. And we have not made the skin line rise. You know, we haven't raised the skin line at all in this case. In this technique, we've kept as much weight as we can because that's kind of the name of the game here. I want to keep some weight. If I keep moving my fade up too high, I have a lot of hair on top with this kid. I have a lot to deal with up there, and I don't want to have to get into trying to do any kind of flick fade or anything like that. I want this to be a really smooth, stretched blend. So once we've done the 0.5 open and the 0.5 close, so what we basically have going on is we have our last line, and our last line, we're going to take care of it like always. We're simply going to come in with the open taper, and I'm really just rocking and rolling over that line. That little 5-0 line that's left, I'm just rocking and rolling right over top of it with it open, and I'm seeing how that affects it. And as I move down, little by little, I'm clicking that lever. Crisscross, keep it flat, click the lever, and begin to use I'm just pretty much keeping it flat. I'm only using a portion of the blade most of the time, but I am keeping it anchored on the scalp and I'm keeping it flat. I've come across quite a few students that are leaving the head too much, and what they tend to do is they kind of do this thing. They're kind of hunting and pecking, and not only does that not feel that great when somebody does that to your head, it doesn't work to get the line out, and if you are doing that, you're going to find that you're going to struggle. It's probably not going to blend out as easily and you're going to have issues. So once I'm done with this, you can see that the blend is starting to come out pretty smooth. I got a little bit of work to do, but I just noticed that his sideburns were there and I just felt like defining the parameters, and sometimes I do that. I just kind of see things that are not perfect. I kind of want to finish it, fix it, and I want to move on from that. So I'm going to go back with the 1. I'm going to do a little bit of detail work, and think of this as texturizing. What's the definition of texturizing? It's removing bulk without affecting length. So therefore, I'm pretty much keeping this on an angle, and I'm working in the little hollows in the head. That's a spot where you're always going to see some shadows. You're always going to see that curvature of the scalp, kind of, even if you follow all your steps perfect, even if you do everything perfect, not every person's head is going to be perfectly smooth, and you're certainly going to have to make some kind of adjustments in those cases. But yes, we're going to come through now with the texturizing shears. I'm just going to move up the same way that I would do with shear over comb, scissor over comb. I'm going to use the texturizing shears because, again, I'm trying to remove some of the bulk in that area. That's a very dense area of the head, and I don't want to have to go in there with a clipper. I want to try to see if I can address that easier with those texturizing shears. Now, once I've done that, I'm even doing a little freehand shear texturing, and I'm just kind of using my eyes. And it's just one of them things that you're gonna have to learn how to do. You're gonna have to learn how to view the canvas and see what's going on and know where those little issues are at. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this other side. Again, I'm just attacking with the 1 and I'm moving my way down through the steps so that I can get to a point when I do my final line that I can really keep it low. I can really keep it right where I wanna keep it. So try to keep that thing flush, try to keep it flat, and that's really gonna help you. So when I'm moving this clipper, I'm keeping it up against their scalp, and many times I have it tilted and I'm using it kind of on an angle. And the reason for that is if I come up flat, it's just so easy for me to make another line when I come up flat. If I'm doing a little bit of a flick, I of course could avoid that a little bit, but I don't really think it's necessary. A lot of people ask me, hey, do you really need to flip your wrist a lot? Do you really need to do this? And the answer to me is absolutely not. The reason why this all works, The reason why this all works is because these guards are all set up to help you. Okay, there is a distance that is specified by the manufacturer for all of this. It's all figured out for you, and if you learn how this chart works together, you are gonna succeed and you're not gonna have issues. The idea here is to create a very small jump. So no matter where you are, no matter if you get lost, no matter if you're having issues and you're forgetting how to blend, the only thing that really matters is that you understand that these jumps are small. So in between skin and trimmer, the amount of hair that you're jumping is very small. In between the trimmer and a closed clipper, these two meet right here. So that's what this chart does. It just shows you where everything meets, how everything works, and how it breaks down. And I see people struggling all the time, and usually it's for two reasons. One, they're not keeping it flat, they're not keeping it anchored. Two, they're not following a good process. And you know, sometimes I might even throw a number 3 in there and say that, you know, it might be that they don't understand their tools enough and they may not have put in the time to set them up correctly. Now, if you set your clippers up correctly, you're gonna have a lot less issues. You're gonna have a lot less struggles. Now, that's why I do like to zero gap it. And this term zero gap is thrown out an awful lot. And it doesn't really mean to me, around an awful lot, and to me, it doesn't actually mean that we want this cutting blade to overlap the comb blade, and that if that happens, it's definitely going to be sharp and it's definitely going to cause issues. But the term zero gap means that I want it as close as I can get it, especially with my clipper, so that my jump from one to the next is very small. My trimmer, I definitely want that pretty well close to zero gap. My trimmer is very sharp. I work with a light hand. I understand that it is sharp. I understand that yes, it can cut someone. Yes, it can irritate skin. However, can I work with it a little easier? Can I work with it a little more careful? Can I pick different situations to use that one in? Absolutely. Do I have another one for kids? Absolutely. Which is why you're gonna wanna make sure that you know your tools and you're familiar with your tools and you understand that taking a 0.5 open into a number 1 is not gonna create a line. Or if you're working your way one way or the other, it doesn't really make a difference. Taking a 1 open into a 1.5 closed is not gonna make a line. So we're just gonna make sure that we understand our clipper chart, we understand all the things, you know, that we see here. And I just wanna take a minute to thank all of you guys who tuned in to the MMA podcast. Of course, he had me on there and I thank him. And any of you guys out there who don't follow MMA Barber, head over to MMA Barber Life and follow him right now. Also, I wanna give a quick shout out to a couple other guys. Ant the Barber, he's dope. Definitely some nuggets on his channel that you can pick up. So you're definitely gonna wanna check him out too. Rum Barbers, they're great. Ron the Barber, Ron's Classic Cuts, he's another great person to learn from. And Al's Barbershop. I'm sure there's somebody else out there that I'm forgetting, but yeah, these are the other people, and we've been kind of getting closer together and talking with each other a lot, and I think it's kind of neat, and I really want to continue those relationships. So please head over there and click subscribe on those channels. And furthermore, we had a lot of giveaways that went down on that channel. You know, I got a little crazy and I gave away the fast fees, which I originally planned on giving away. So films, these are on the way tomorrow in the mail. Secondly, I also gave away a magic clip, which I just happen to have sitting around here somewhere. But I gave away a magic clip and I also gave away a Wall 5-star electric shaver to another person, and Barber Fidel, he's the one who won that one, which is pretty cool because he's a long-time subscriber. He comments on all the videos, and you know, it's people like him and people like you that make this channel go and continue going. So thank you guys so much for all the support, and you guys were tuned in till midnight on a Wednesday night. That was pretty dope. Next on the chopping block, a brand new 50 cal. So I promised to you guys, I've been saying this in a lot of videos lately, I've kind of figured out how I want to do this one. So yeah, I'm going to be giving away this 50 cal soon. So click subscribe, hit that bell, and don't miss out on your chance to win it. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm going through and I'm going to edge him up. Now, I'm actually going to use a little tip that I picked up from Ant the Barber, and I'm going to go ahead and do his edge up the way that I normally do it. He's got a lot of hair, this kid, and I just want to kind of start in the middle, work my way out to the edges, work my way out to the edges. However, like a lot of kids, you'll notice this kid has a ton of hair on his forehead. I mean, it grows right down to his eyebrows. In some cases, it connects. And you know, you're gonna have a bunch of hair there to deal with. I told you that my trimmers were sharp and I didn't really want to remove the hair that way because I know for sure I'll probably wind up irritating his forehead. So this is another little hold that I use a lot. This is like a pencil grip hold, and I use this to make the line. I actually kind of like to do that. It isn't just for the camera. Sometimes if the client is in a high position, it might not make sense to do it like this. And I kind of like to put that edge up at my eye level, which is why I do that. So I'm using a little trick from the Barber that I learned. He said in a cases with certain kids, it makes more sense to not put the shave gel on the forehead, and you can kind of just dry shave them little vellus hairs. Because if I did put the shave gel on his hair, it is gonna make a big mess. I'm gonna have to clean all that up, and it is just a little bit easier for me to just go through and knock them out without making a mess. So shout out to Ant for that one. Picked up a little something on his channel, and I'm sure that you guys too. Now, you guys ask me all the time to do eyebrow demos, so what I basically do is very simple. I just go through, I like to clean out the middle a little bit. I don't like to get too crazy. With certain people, of course, he's got the hair all on his forehead, and I'm just trying to get rid of it so that it all, you know, looks right. Now, some people really go ham on the eyebrows and they really get a little bit crazy. But what I'm basically going to do is I'm actually going to use like a reverse backhand to take care of the other side of the eyebrow. See, this is where people get into a little bit of trouble because this area is hard to reach, but it's actually really easy to reach if you practice this technique. So I use a little reverse backhand there, and I remove that eyebrow hair that's kind of getting in my way. And always trying to take a little less. Less is more here. You definitely don't want to mess somebody's eyebrow up because every single time they look in the mirror, their eyes are going to be drawn directly to that mistake. And of course, they're going to blame you for it because who else are they going to blame? So it is your fault. So anyways, little by little, work those eyebrows out. And what I also use too, sometimes if the hair is a little bit longer, you can use some scissors and you can go around. Now, I really do like using this technique here where I stand behind the client to make them C-cups, to enhance those C-cups. And, you know, that's pretty much how I like to do both of those C-cups and do that. I'm going to go through, I'm going to cut the top with the scissors. I believe I've sped this clip up just a little bit, but I've shown you guys many times what I do. If this is the top of his head, I'm just going to create this mohawk section. And once I've created this mohawk section, I want to say one thing real quick. Don't texturize your guideline. I see a lot of people who are trying to get fancy with scissors and they texturize their guideline. If your first guideline is texturized, you're making a line to follow like this. That makes absolutely no sense. So leave your guideline to be nice and even. My guideline was right here. I cut this. So basically what we're seeing is hair that comes up like this. I'm going to stand and I'm going to work right down this little lane here. So little by little, I'm picking up hair. I'm cutting it off. Next section, right here, pick it up, cut it off. Right here, pick it up, cut it off. And I'm working my way through. Don't make sections any wider than the width of your comb. And now, if you're comfortable enough, you can feel free to texturize his hair because of the kind of style that I'm trying to create here. I am going to texturize his hair. I'm going to point cut his hair the rest of the way. But I see a lot of people getting fancy and point cutting their guidelines. And if somebody down in the comments below can tell me I'm wrong or tell me that point cutting a guideline makes sense, I could definitely feel like I can kind of debate you on that one. So I'm just going to go through, like I said, little by little. My guide was here. I'm going to branch out. I'm going to branch out. I'm going to branch out until it's done. Once I get towards the parietal ridge or towards the sides of his head, I'm going to just finish that off with some scissor over comb, soften that look up, maybe add a little more texture with some notching shears, and you know his style is going to start to come together. So I hope this kind of helps you to kind of learn how to cut the top. I added the edge up in there, and you know I showed the fade in this video too. And you know, for any of you guys who are still curious, yes, the code is still active. If you guys want to get a 50 cal or anything from Caliber for that matter, you can go ahead and head over to caliberprocorp.com, type in code Eddie for a 15% discount and free shipping on orders that are domestic. So you guys can see that these are great clippers. They do actually work. I do stand behind them, and I don't support companies that I don't believe in, like Babyliss. So you guys can see that I've had many different clippers on the channel. I've featured nearly all of them, I think. And you know, I wouldn't be sitting here using them every day, day in and day out, if I really didn't like them or if I was just trying to sell you something. So anyways, we're finishing off this haircut. We're just about getting there. If there's anything that I didn't cover in this video, stay tuned because I'm sure I'll cover it in another video, but also you can get active down in the comments below. Ask me any questions. I'll try my best to get back down to you guys, and I'll make sure that I try to reply to all of you. And stay tuned for the 50 cal giveaway. I will be announcing it in my next video. Thank you guys all so much for your support on the channel and everything. And I'm gonna let you guys ride out to music till the end. I'll see you later.